Hey everybody, this is AP. I'm back and I got my expression pedal controller done for my Specular Tempus that I talked about in my previous video. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you how I put it together and give you a quick rundown of what it can do with some sound examples. So first of all, like I discussed before, we got 4 switches corresponding to the 4 knobs on the Specular Tempus, and when you switch one to the left, your left, it turns that knob active. So you could control 2 knobs or just 1 knob, and that's how that works. And here we just have a standard DC input jack that you would use for any expression pedal, 9-volt center negative. And here, this is my MIDI jack. This is a 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter TRS stereo jack. And I did this because I didn't want to put the MIDI jack on the side, and MIDI jacks are just huge anyway. So I could save a lot of space by doing it this way. And there's actually an official standard supported by the MIDI Association where they have an official standard to how to wire this up. So let's take a closer look at this and I'll show you what's inside. So here's all the stuff from the M-Audio expression pedal that I didn't use. This is a polarity switch that changes the positive and negative of the expression pedal if you had it hooked up. And then this was wired to that second potentiometer, which lets you set the minimum value of the expression pedal. And this is just the cable coming out, and I'm not using any of that. So all I have left is the main potentiometer right here, which has 5 volts on one side and 0 volts on the other, and we're using an analog pin to read it. This isn't it, it's over here somewhere. There's too many wires. I'm not going to try to point out what goes where. It's exactly the same as the prototype build that I did. It's just a lot closer together. So we have our 4 switches, and right here is our MIDI jack. So you have the signal going to the tip, 5 volts with the 220 ohm resistor going to the ring, and then ground going to the sleeve. And this is all part of that standard MIDI Association 1/8 inch TRS specification. There's a mouthful. And then here is our DC in jack. This side is ground, and I grounded a lot of things to it, so there's multiple wires, and then the other side is the positive. And then this was there originally that grounds the back plate to the rest of the circuit. Might as well. Seems like a good idea. So here's the Arduino Pro Mini on its own. I actually fried this one. I'm not really sure how. It's quite a bit smaller than the Nano, which I used before in that other MIDI project of mine, which I have a video about for the Line 6. But this is a really great size to fit inside the pedal enclosure. Fits nicely on the side there. So I ended up spending about $75 on this project, and that sounds like a lot, but I didn't use all the parts that I bought. You know, a lot of them came in packs of 10. You only use a couple or just one, and now I have all those parts for future projects. So when you figure all that in, like the price per part, I only spent about $44, and just about half of that was just the expression pedal. Now there are some commercially available products that you could use to accomplish the same goal of converting an expression pedal to MIDI. The main one is the MIDI Solutions Pedal Converter. Really generic name, but basically it's a box about the size of a standard pedal that has a MIDI jack in and out and expression pedal in. And it costs about $120, so that's why I wanted to make my own. And then I could also tailor it to do exactly what I want. So there are pros to that MIDI Solutions device. It would be probably more reliable than this. My soldering skills are not great and the parts are just kind of floating around in here. Obviously there's ways to improve that, improve my build quality, but this is good enough for me for right now. The other thing, this doesn't have MIDI through. You could add that. You know, there's room for another jack here, I think. And it would be a little bit of extra components, a little bit of extra coding. That's also very possible to do though. And then the other advantage of the MIDI Solutions pedal is that they have a Mac and PC editor. So you can go in and change settings on the pedal easily with a nice interface. That's something that I don't have for this. It's something I could develop, but when I know how it works, all I have to do is plug it into my computer and change some things in the code, and that's good enough for me. There are a couple advantages to this. device that I have built. Obviously it's cheaper, and I can control more than one function on the Specular Tempus. I think the MIDI Solutions pedal would only be able to send one kind of control change, and basically that would just be one knob, or maybe in the editor you could set two things to the same channel. I haven't tried that. But then the other thing, like I said, there's no editor program for this, but when you've built it yourself, you know how the code works. So that's not a huge barrier to changing things. There are some possible improvements that I would make to this. The main thing being, this actually has another knob on it, which I believe in the original configuration of this would have set the minimum value that this would have in the toe up position. And right now I don't have it hooked up to anything, but it would be interesting to hook it up as a second potentiometer and use it to control my minimum value. My code is set up in such a way that that would be pretty easy to do, and that would give you finer control over the range that you actually want to be in. Because if you only wanted to, say you're going from 0 to 100, but you really want to do stuff between 60 and 100, you know, you're only in a small part of the range of the pedal. So if you could dial this up to the minimum, then you would have the minimum here, the maximum here. So you could go from 60 up to 100 and have finer control over it, which I think would be really useful. But for now, I just wanted to keep this really simple. So thanks for checking out this video. I'll post a list of the parts in the description, and hopefully you learned something and you'll be able to do something similar for your own rig. Be sure to check out my other videos and keep on rocking. Real quickly, here's the Arduino Pro Mini, which is plugged into the FTDI chip to program it. And that's just plugged into my computer. It was really easy to set up. All I had to do was plug in the FTDI device and my computer recognized it within a few seconds. I didn't have to do any manual install of drivers, it was all automatic. And then this is literally just inserted in here. There's no solder or anything. And then in the Arduino software, you just have to make sure you select the new COM port that shows up and select the Arduino Pro Mini instead of the Uno that we were using before. And then just to make sure it was working, I went into the examples and went for the blink example. You just hit upload. You'll see there's lights flashing, I think. Yep. So then all this does is flash that LED in the corner, 1 second on, 1 second off. And we can see that it works. So I think it'll work with my code. Hopefully we just send it over and then I'll wire up all the stuff and hopefully it'll work.